Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy the first multifamily deal. So today I want to talk about how I went from zero to $1 million in real estate without, help from rich parents, right? My parents grew up as immigrants from Vietnam, grew up from nothing and, built a middle-class lifestyle for me and my sister to live. And they taught me how to save, but they didn't teach me how to invest, right? So they taught me how to save money and be frugal and find discounts and conserve money, but they didn't teach me how to invest. So let me talk about it two ways, how I made my first million from real estate. The first way I'll talk about single family homes. And the second way I'll talk about is apartment complexes, because I've made millions in both aspects. So how I got started in real estate investing was in 2017, I put 10% down for a $800,000 4-bedroom, 3-bath house in the Bay Area. And I basically got a 4% interest rate on the loan back then. And I house hacked the property. So I lived in the master and I rented out the 3 other bedrooms for $1,000 each. And that was $3,000 a month, which was enough to cover my principal and interest on the mortgage. And I had to cover my property tax, my HOA, my utilities, any repairs out of pocket, which came out to be about $1,500, right? So I literally just bought that house and then lived there for like a year and a half. And then I moved out of that house and I bought another house for 10% down because I got a new job, right? I got a new job and I didn't want to make that long commute. I hate commuting, despite me commuting now. So I bought a house close to San Francisco and it was a duplex and I put 10% down once again. So it was $1.1 million. So I put about $100K down. My interest rate was 3.75%, believe it or not. No PMI through US Bank. And I rented out my last house for, I think, $3,700, and my all-in expense was around $4,200. So I was actually cash flow negative on that house by $500 a month, but I was okay taking that hit because I was house hacking my new property and I was still working at a high-income W-2 job, right? So I didn't mind taking that $500 a month hit, knowing that I could raise rents over time, and then if interest rates lowered, I would refinance, which is what I did, right? So from these, the second property, it was a makeshift, it was a duplex. So it was a upper unit, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath upstairs and a 2-bedroom, 1-bath downstairs. So I rented out the downstairs unit to 4 college students for about $2,800, which included utilities and internet. And then I lived up in the upper unit in the master bedroom, and I rented out each of the other 2 rooms for about $1,200 each. So I was collecting roughly around $5,400 a month, which was enough to cover my principal and my interest once again. And I had to pay for property tax, insurance, utilities, maintenance, which came out to be about $1,500. And then I was negative $500 from my other properties. So it was about $2,000 a month for me to live in, own 2 houses, right? And what's kind of crazy is, fast forward. So let's just focus on these 2 homes. I did buy more later, but I bought the first one for $800,000 and in 2017, and bought my second one for $1.1 million in 2019. And what was that? Now that we look back, well, home prices skyrocketed during COVID. Chalk it up to luck, I know, right? But I literally didn't know it was going to happen, but interest rates lowered. So what did I do? I lowered cash out. I refinanced my first property from 4% to 3.125%, and that lowered my monthly payment by about $300 a month. And then I raised my rents by $200. So now I went from negative $500 a month on that property to break even, but I'm self-managing it. Keep in mind. And then the other property I kept as is, but the property went from $800,000 to now today it's worth about $1.3 to $1.4 million. That's $500,000 of doing nothing, right? Chalk it up to luck once again. So that property went by $500,000 from COVID, black swan event. Like I said, I just owned property and then it skyrocketed, right? I didn't expect it. People were telling me when I was buying in 2017 that it was going to crash, right? And it could have crashed too. So, if I made $500,000 in equity from that one deal, and then my other property I bought in San Francisco was worth about $1.5, $1.6 million today too. And once again, I did nothing, right? I rent out that property today, top unit for $4,500, and the bottom unit for about almost $3,000. So I'm getting $7,500 a month from that property. I am covering all the utilities though, but I am cash flowing about maybe $800 a month on that property. And it's been the same tenant so far, stable. And both these properties appreciated by $500,000 since then. So there you go. That's my first $1 million that I made, right? And I literally just put 10% down, lived in it, rented out rooms, and then after I moved out of it, I just rented it out, right? And now, they both cash flow a little bit, despite me self-managing it after owning it for 6 to 8 years later. So just have patience, right? So real estate takes about 5 to 6 years for it to start feeling like it's doing well, right? Because over time your rents go up a little bit. Actually, I raised my rents on my upper unit. I think it's renting now for like $5,200, and then the lower unit is about $3,000. So that's what, $8,200, right? That's almost as much rent as my 20-unit apartment complex in Enid, Oklahoma, right? Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, my Enid, Oklahoma property right now, because I have some occupancy or vacancies, I'm getting $8,000 a month, and I own one single-family duplex near San Francisco. Upper unit rents for $5,200. The bottom unit rents for about $3,000. So I'm getting $8,200 a month, but I'm covering all utilities, which is expensive, right? My utilities is like probably, I don't even know, over $1,000, maybe $1,200 a month. I think just the water and the PG&E, because it's about $1,200, and I'm cash flowing that property. So it takes time for things to compound. It takes time for things to settle down. It takes time for interest rates to lower so you can refinance to really benefit from it. But that's how I made my first million, right? So now I know I'm going to hear, okay, Steven, it's luck. Okay, let's just chart that one up to luck, right? I just bought it, COVID happened, interest rates lowered, housing prices skyrocketed, made $1 million, luck, right? Let's just put that aside. So let me talk about my first $1 million I made from my apartment complex, right? So I literally sent out direct mail for 6 months, and this owner for his 26-unit apartment complex reached out to me, and he basically sent me the profit and loss statement. He sent me the rent roll, and I think he was getting about $9,000 a month in rental income a month, and it was in Oklahoma. And I remember looking at underwriting this deal, and I did the NOI divided by the cap rate. So whatever that I did, let's just say 10,000 divided by 2, so it's 50% expense ratio. So that's about $5,000 a month, times that by 12. My NOI is about $60,000 a year, and you divide that by an 8 cap, and I think that pencils out to be a little bit under $700,000 to $800,000. And I remember thinking, okay, well, that's my max price based on NOI divided by net operating income. But I looked at the tax assessed price, and they had it valued at $500,000. So I just offered $500,000, and he just literally accepted the deal, like as is. And I was just like, may chart that up to luck too, right? Like I found a deal off market after sending direct mail. I bought it for $500,000. It appraised at $750K, which is what I underwrote it at. So I made $250,000 instantly day one without doing anything, right? But what the beautiful thing about this deal is the tenants were paying $500 a month, $500 a month in rent, all bills paid. So that means that the landlord was paying the electricity, the water, the gas, and all that. But in reality, landlords usually just pay for the water. So I knew that, okay, he's charging, let's say $400 on average. After water, utility expenses, his actual rental income is $300. And I knew that if I renovate these units for about $10,000 on each on average, let's just call it, and I knew the market rents for my property manager was around $700. So I knew that I can conservatively go from $300 up to $700, which is effectively doubling the rents. And my expenses wouldn't be that much more significant, right? So if this property is valued at $750K day one, right? Remember I bought it for $500. I knew that, and the rents were at half what they should be. I knew that I could double my NOI by renovating the units, and then keep my expenses as minimal as possible, right? Because insurance is the same, property tax is the same. It's just about your water expense is going to go up as you own more units, and then you want to obviously there's maintenance of the property. But I knew that I could double my rents, and because I can have the tenants pay market rents was $600-$700, and the tenants pay their own utilities. And you don't want to pay utilities as a landlord, because if I pay for electricity bill, like in my house in San Francisco, my tenant just can leave on the heater 24/7 and they don't pay anything, right? Because I pay the bill, right? So they can just leave things on all day and don't care, right? Versus if they pay the bill themselves, they will be more cognizant of how they use your utilities. So I knew that I could basically get $700 and not have to pay utilities, which is the case today. So I ended up renovating the units. They rent out for about $700 on average, I would say. Some units we didn't really renovate it, but we just raised the rents. We did some make readies, add some new appliances, and then we were able to still raise the rents, not to 700, but maybe to closer to 600. And then I doubled my NOI and I doubled my value to about it's worth about $1.6 million today, right? So if you think about it, I bought for $500,000. I put in about $300,000 of renovation. So I'm all for $800. Now it's worth $1.6 million. So I forced $800,000 of appreciation. And today, this property grosses about $16,000, I would say, in gross rental income, and about $6,000 in net positive cash flow. So times that by 12, that's about $72K, right? That I'm getting positive cash flow. So I made $800,000 through forced appreciation, and then for the past 2 years, I've been cash flowing about $72,000. So let's just call it $150K for the past 2 years. But let's just take out for the past 2 years. So that's about what is that? $950K. So that's close to $1 million. So just this one apartment complex, I made close to $1 million. And this one wasn't luck, right? I bought it right. I renovated the property. I managed my expenses. I increased my income, kept my expenses as minimal as possible by changing insurances, contesting property taxes, having great property management, and then I was able to execute the value add strategy, renovate the units, raise the rents to my market rents, and then keep it now occupied and minimize expenses. So I basically made $1 million there, right? And this one wasn't luck. All of this was within my control, right? The single family homes, I agree, luck. Appreciate like crazy during COVID when interest rates lowered, luck. Multifamily, I did everything myself, right? I bought the deal right. I managed the renovation well. I, got good property management who, turned the units well. Now they're managing it well. So, that was really it. But the key was buying it well and then having a great team, right? Is what I did for that one. So that's another way that I made $1 million through, real estate as well. And another way, and kind of off topic here, but I did the same thing with stocks. I literally just maxed out a 401k for the past 12 years, maxed out my IRA for the past 12 years. I max fund whole life insurance. I dump money into Vanguard brokerage accounts, and my index fund portfolio went up. I bought a bunch of Apple stock in 2013, I think $10,000 worth. And now the whole stock portfolio is worth over $1 million. And, all I didn't time the market. I just threw whatever money I had in there and let the market do its thing. Right. So it's really that simple. So, the key thing is, if you want to make your first $1 million through real estate, just buy real estate and hold, right? You buy and hold, and then let the market do its thing. The market will go down, right? It'll go up. Then it'll go down, it'll go up. Right now it's probably going down. Not as much as I thought it would, but it's going down. Rents are going down, but not down that much, right? Rents went down on my 20 unit. I think I was renting it for $500, but now I have to rent it for $450. But that's okay, right? The key is you want to survive, and then once the economy is good again, then you raise your rents up again, right? And same with single family homes. And that's why I still work at a B2, because I want a cushion, I want a buffer. And that's why I'm building up a big emergency reserve, because I want to be able to sustain these ups and downs, right? And this is the first time I'm going through a down cycle. But anyways, the key is you want to hold on to these assets as long as possible. Hold on to your stocks as long as possible. Hold on to your real estate as long as possible. Hold on to your apartment complex as long as possible, and let compounding do its thing. That's where the magic really happens. So hopefully you learned how to make your first $1 million through real estate, whether you're going single family. Like I said, if you buy single family, it's more luck, unless you're buying units and then building ADUs, which is popular now, and then you partition off the ADU as a separate parcel, and then now you own 2 properties, right? That's a very popular thing people are doing in Seattle, and maybe that'll come to California. So I can maybe build an ADU in one of my properties with a big lot and partition it off, and the main house will be worth $1.2 million, but the side house might be worth $700,000, but it only cost me $300,000 to build it. So I can make $400,000 on that property, and then do a cash out refinance and rent it out, right? So there's other ways to make money. That's another popular strategy that people are doing. If you watch Thatch, that's what he basically does. He basically buy big lots, build ADUs, buy the first house right with a big lot, fix it up, raise the value, do a cash out refinance, rent it out. Hopefully that breaks even, and then you have the other lot in the background where you can build a brand new construction for $300,000, and now it's worth $700K, and you just made $400,000 of appreciation on that property, and it rents out well. So there's other ways to do it, right? With single family homes too, where you can make your luck too as well. And then if you go multifamily, then obviously you could manage your real estate that way. So anyways, hopefully you learned something. Let me know questions you have. If you want one-on-one coaching, click on my link tree down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.